So, in this video, I'll try to give you a quick summary of all the lore relevant stuff we learned in Simulanka, which is the new summer event area in version 4.8, as well as some predictions about possible future content. I'll mostly talk about the things that sound important in relevance to Genshin's overarching story and lore, and some things that could be relevant in Natlan too. There is obviously as always a disclaimer though. This video is just my interpretation of the lore and my opinion, which could very well be just wrong. I can't read the developers' minds, so I just have to theorize and let them cook. Also, as you hopefully noticed in this particular video, I'm trying out a bit of a new style. I'm trying to make the videos more pleasing both to the eyes and to the ears. So if you have any constructive feedback about this, please tell me in the comments down below, since I don't know if I'll be keeping this style of videos or if I will return to my original editing style. So at this point in time, everyone who pays at least a bit of attention to Genshin's lore knows the importance of fairy tale stories and allegories in Genshin, especially after we learned all the stuff we know about Irminsul, the Loom of Fate, and how easily can memories be manipulated. So even before we came to Simulanka, once I learned that this was a lore that's based on a storybook, I was already pretty sure that this was going to be important to the overarching lore of Genshin. All of the things we encountered in Simulanka in terms of story themes and lore were centered around fate. This is even more on the nose because of the things we learn first about this world, by which I mean the fact that it was created by the mages of Hexencercle. Hexencercle, if you don't know, is a group of witches that's known for their interest in the fate of Teyvat, Irminsul and similar things, so this solidifies the importance of the hints in Simulanka. We have been getting a lot of Hexencercle related content recently, like in the case of Imaginarium Theater and all the books and lore we got together with that mode. So I think this implies that the Hexencercle will get more mentions in Natlan as well, and hopefully we could even get to meet Alice or someone like Diko directly for the first time. Well, first of all, we must know that it is explicitly said in the game that the fate of Simulanka is based directly on the fate of Teyvat and reflects it as a whole. This is very important because this means that various themes in Simulanka are representative of the real events happening in Teyvat. But for now, let's talk about the three goddesses of Simulanka. So the first goddess I want to talk about is the goddess of fate, who is revealed to be Ender's daughter or the mage with the codename M. And we also learned in this event that her real name is Anya, and because of what she said about choosing M as her codename, we can guess that her full name is probably something along the lines of Anya M. Ender's daughter, but this is more of a speculation on my part. We know that Ender's daughter is one of the mortal members of Hexencercle, maybe actually the only one, and she is probably unfortunately long dead at this point, as it is heavily implied in this event and even before that she lived some time before Canrian Cataclysm and also lived through it. But this unfortunately may have been the last time we have seen her in an important lore event for a long time, since her presence can't be really felt much in the current Teyvat. Anyway, she is best known for her stories, especially stories for children that are often, let's say, very interesting in nature. Like the most well-known one is probably the Boar Princess, which began as a cute little story for children and ended up as some sort of weird cannibalistic tragedy. If you are interested in that, I recommend you to read the book for yourself. It's pretty short and it's nice to read. But yeah, one of the stories she wrote was apparently a story about Simulanka, which is how this world came to be along with the help of the two other goddesses, and she also made a story for Durin because she felt bad about his ending in the real world, which I'll talk about later. The second goddess is the goddess of creation, which is obviously Alice, who is for the players the most well-known member of the Hexencercle. Well, we have seen her or rather heard her several times in the game already, so I'll make this short. She has many titles, roles and important things about her to mention lore-wise, so I'll only choose some of them, which could be important to her role in Simulanka. In the event, it's revealed that she is the one who created Simulanka with Ender's daughter consent, and a little help from Barbelov too, who I'll mention in a bit. From all we know, I assume that she's also the one who created the fantasy truth ink that Wolfie mentioned to us in the Imaginarium Theater that can apparently make fantasy into a real reality. This also reminded me of the magic ink that the origami creatures in the Forest of Blessings had to drink to keep themselves alive and to keep their color. It's also later revealed that she was the one who invited all the characters over to Simulanka, including the Traveler and Paimon, even though their invitation was a bit on the unexpected side. And this event also has the mandatory Alice talk along at the very end, which was to be expected, and we didn't really learn anything new or super important in terms of lore about her, so I digress. The third goddess is the goddess of prophecy, who was revealed to be Astromancer Barbelov Trismegistus, aka Mona's master. She is the one whose statue is built in the middle of constellation Metropole, which is very fitting since reading fate from the stars and constellations is her whole thing. Apparently the statue depicts her when she was younger, which is one of the many hints that tell us that Simulanka has been around for a while at this point, but we just didn't know about it. Right here we are also getting into the more interesting topic of this video, and that's the stars, fate and all that stuff. So even in Simulanka, the NPCs once again confirmed to us that the stars are directly connected to fate of all beings in Simulanka, and since Simulanka is based directly on Teyvat, all of this remains true even in Teyvat. The interesting thing to know about all of this is how it is all presented. First of all, the people of Constellation Metropole are all protected by Barbelov, so if anything happens to them, she just rewinds the time and saves them. This also makes their fate decided for them by her, not by them though, which is later explored more as a theme in some sort of war quests. This could have some heavy implications on how things work in Teyvat as well. Thanes, or the Primordial One, or let's just say the Heavenly Principles, could be represented here by Barbelov, and they could control the fate of everyone in Teyvat through the stars and constellations to basically make life better for them. But as I said earlier, this means controlling their fate and not letting them decide their own destiny, which could lead to a similar conclusion as the one in Simulanka, which was that Barbelov decided to slowly but surely leave the people decide their own destiny, without their help, which is also one of the ongoing theories in the lore community that explains the reason why the Heavenly Principles are still asleep. Maybe they just decided that it's better for the people of Teyvat not to interfere with them anymore. And while I don't really believe this to be the case, it certainly is a possibility to consider. The other important thing to mention is that the stars, which are very closely connected to the fate of people in Constellation Metropole, are presented as notes in the score, which really reminds me of the Phobos, aka the Symphony of the God King Grimus, which, in the case you forgot, was a symphony that played everyone's fate. This makes me wonder if the fate of Teyvat is indeed in some sort of way connected to music, and if it can be conceptualized as a music score. Since so many of Genshin's lore important characters, themes and so on are based on music, this is pretty interesting theory, and I think this needs to be explored further. For example, the very first song every Genshin player will hear, called the Dream Aria, aka the opening theme, is based on the Three Moon Sisters that are also inspired by music-related themes like aria, sonnet and canon. Which is even weirder when we consider the little world quest that happened in the Whispering Isle, where the three statues lie, and once you complete the world quest, the moon pops up in the sky, which is really sus. Well, anyway, lately there seems to be a lot of emphasis on the importance of music in Genshin, especially with the release of Remuria, so I wonder if it's just a coincidence or if there is something more behind all of this. They also directly mention in Simulanka creating protective barriers that are connected to the stars, which really reminded me of the lore of the Wing Glider in Genshin that mentions the protective barriers around Teyvat and how they are weakening and Alice supposedly takes care of them. Throughout the whole Simulanka story, there was also a big emphasis on the prophecy, which has also lately been a frequent theme in Genshin, with all the Fontaine prophecy, Weatherfall and other stuff. I think this could also be a reflection of that in Simulanka. The other interesting theme throughout the story of Simulanka was the returning of color to the origami creatures. In Simulanka, this losing of color is called the fading disorder, and this happens when they don't have enough magic ink. They lose not only color, but also their memories and their abilities. This was already implied to be maybe a big theme in Natlan as well, as we saw in the Ignition teaser all of the characters lose their color for a bit, and everything is burning before Capitano appeared and the teaser got a bit more serious. So this could be some sort of hint at what is happening in Natlan. Maybe the primal fire is something the people of Natlan need to not lose their color. I obviously mean this as an allegory, just losing color probably wouldn't be much of a problem. I think that losing color could be representative of something like erosion that we know from the real Teyvat, or something similar to it like the corruption caused by forbidden knowledge or the withering. We could even see similar sights to the one place in Simulanka without color, in Sumeru Desert, that we could cleanse by activating the towers around the desert. It was even more interesting that Neil was the one to cleanse this erasure of color in Simulanka, because he represents Nabu Malikata, or the goddess of flowers, who's a city that has a big history with the forbidden knowledge and abyssal powers as well. But this is all huge speculation, so I digress. The similarities to real Teyvat things also don't end here, as for example the people of Constellation Metropole realize that they are not real people, the same way Fontainians do, except they weren't getting real bodies like the Fontainians, but the goddess of prophecy kind of explains that this doesn't matter as much in one of the side quests in Constellation Metropole. The goddess of prophecy refuses to decide everything by herself and leaves the destiny of the people for themselves to decide, which is kinda the theme of the whole game. Like how the people of Teyvat are slowly but surely getting rid of the divine interventions, like the Archons, the Gnosis, and start relying on themselves. The next and probably the most important topic of this video is Durin and his potential resurrection. Simulanka was in this sense very different from the other three summer events we had in the past, because each of them foreshadowed what would happen in the future version somehow some way, but for Simulanka, while this is still the case, it mainly focused on the story of Durin, which is a dragon from Mondstadt, created by Randotter, that was most relevant back in version 1.2. So we actually went back instead of forward for once, which at least for me was really unexpected. So, as I said before, all of this story was about what happened in the past with Durin, which if you read the lore already, then you already knew about most of this even before this event happened, but it was still really nice to revisit. So basically Anders' daughter wanted Durin to have second chance at life, to hopefully live a happier life with a different ending than the one in the real world. But unfortunately he had some misunderstandings with the people of Constellation Metropole and the Forest of Blessings, so we eventually had to confront him and make him into a mini Durin version of itself. We also learned some interesting bits and pieces about the relevance of names, as Bartolo suggests that if Ender's daughter names Durin the same way in Simulanka, he will likely share the same fate as the real Durin, which means that the act of giving a name could be more important in Teyvat than I originally thought. It's even more relevant because recently the Tavern mentioned in the bedtime story Archon quest that the sibling is the only one that calls them by their real name. There are some other interesting parallels, like the similarities between Scaramouche and Durin, but I don't think I need to talk about that too much. It's just interesting to know that Scaramouche was given a name by the Traveler as well, probably in a similar way to Durin, which could influence his actual fate. And the fact that at the very end of the event, Alice basically renamed Durin to Mini Durin could hold some importance as well. But the more important thing to talk about is the prophecy at the very end of the quest that was mentioned by Barbel to Anders' daughter. She says that R's child, meaning Granddaughter's child, will one day return from the dead. This obviously hits at Durin returning from the dead at Dragonspine, and it's even further supported by what Albedo says, and how he says that his observations at Dragonspine confirm this. But even with all the evidence supporting the one that she meant was Durin, I'm still not 100% sure that it couldn't be someone like Elinas, who was a dragon created by the Granddaughter as well, and its heart almost got resurrected during the Narsenkreuz or Dovot quest series. But yeah, most likely it's going to be Durin coming back to life once more. And also I heard a lot of people say that they think this will be a continuation of the Albedo related Dragonspine events. To me, it seems far too important of a thing to be left in an event, so I think it will be probably part of something like an Archon quest interlude or something like that. At least that's what I think will happen, but maybe I'm wrong. But that will be it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed this new style I'm trying out here and that you liked this video. It probably took a lot of time to get all of this done, so I hope it was worth it. Anyway, I don't have much more to say. The story of Simulanka was very interesting and exciting, but right now I'm already looking forward to Natlan too much to focus on it properly. So I hope that I have a chance to create some sort of content on Natlan as well. But with all of that said, that was all, and I hope to see you in the next one.